always cool discussing about Metal Gear 5 with the other Metal Gear fan that exists.
Yeah, it's not just me.
Exactly. There's dozens of us.
There's dozens. Welcome everybody to episode 45 of New Game Pluscast. I'm sitting here with my previously a guest, now co-host for this episode, Cristian Caroli. How are you, Cristian?
All good, Juan. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here, back to back episodes.
Absolutely, man. I mean, we loved having you the first time around, and we're just abusing your time. That's what we're doing. We're just taking advantage until you're sick of us. That's the tactic.
Glad to be here. Always love talking about video games, and we have some interesting topics today.
Yes, we do. So, to everybody who follows this podcast, we're gonna switch things around a little bit. We're gonna be moving away from news topics on the podcast. We're just gonna center around one topic and try to, delve into it deeply and, like relaxed without having to like rush things around. I'm gonna be doing a weekly video. I'm gonna try to do it. I'm well on track this week, but you know how things are. To do a news-based video each week. So that's kind of how we're shifting gears here. So the topic for today is going to be the difficulty in video games. And this is a topic that I selected because, you're a Twitter guy, maybe even more than I am. So you saw the discourse that went around yesterday. Today
Keep
we're
good.
recording.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Keep
Get
good
good.
discourse.
That is gonna be the title of this episode probably. But yeah, we're recording this on July 15th, and yesterday, July 14th, there was this whole thing going around where, people saying that if you play games on easy, you're not a real gamer, or, things get kind of out of hand. I tried to get like a feel of where this started, at least yesterday, and the closest thing that I can find is that Xbox, the official Xbox account, tweeted something like, if you beat a game on easy, you still beat the game. Like, it's not less of a gamer credential, something
Yeah.
which I agree. I mean, we'll get into that later. But do you know more about that, or like where it started?
That's how it started, I believe.
Okay.
It actually goes all the way back because Double Fine Productions, the people behind games like Brutal Legend, Psychonauts, they're adding a feature in Psychonauts 2 that is called Invincibility Mode. So you basically can die in your playthrough. And when they announced that, then of course people were like, "Fuck your game," kind of thing. And from there, like some discussion spiraled, I would say, out of control because even some journalists whose job is to review games, they were like I will always. I think one said, "I will always review a game only on easy, and I don't care what anyone says." And then I
Hmm.
think Colin Moriarty then jumped into the bandwagon and was like, "If you review a game on easy, you're not doing a good job." And then obviously, like, because that's how Twitter works, the discussion became incredibly nurturing and fruitful.
Absolutely, it's always so enlightening to see the replies on Twitter. No, I think you're absolutely right. I did see the Double Fine thing. That was a couple of days ago, but you're totally
Yep.
right. I mean, it kind of stems from there. Totally,
Yeah.
makes total sense. So I mean, I think we to start, because I mean we're gonna go through some things you mentioned about Colin Moriarty tweeting up to this other person who I don't have her name. I think she's another game journalist, as you said, but we'll get into that later.
Sure.
So let's just get first on what our stance is in general, like not going to specifics of what happened or blah blah blah. Like when you hear the words difficulty in video games, what comes to mind for you, or what's your stance in overall? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Let me know.
So it's hard because I think there are two different discussions. I think there's like accessibility in the sense
Mm.
like there's a reason why you can play, and then there's kind of like experience when and that and the other one, which is the experience, falls into the hands of the game designers. And And I understand that in the end, this is a product. And if you want to make games as big as they are right now, and you want everyone to enjoy it, you will have to, be able to give people the tools to really customize the experience around difficulty. So I don't find anything inherently bad about a game having like easy mode or hard mode or hardcore mode or permadeath. So that's kind of like how I see it.
Okay, makes sense. I think that, like, personally, I enjoy hard video games. I think you're too, but I'm a big
Yep.
From Software fan. Like,
Sure, 100%.
when exactly when those guys came into the picture, I mean, they've been doing games for almost decades, I think. But when Demon Souls came around, I fucked with it a little bit. Like, I borrowed it from a friend. I hated it because, I mean, I was used to another kind of paradigm. Then this friend said, like, hey man, you have to play this a different way, and we kind of came to a metaphor that I think you'll appreciate. That is that From Software is like Bai Mei in the Kill Bill films. It's like it hits you hard, but in the end, it wants you to learn and to like do things in a different way. I don't know if you agree with that metaphor, but that's kind of cool.
I used to hate those games. I was like, why is the experience reduced? Also, I think they have a bad rep. That's the first thing because people associate them with frustration. And the truth is that a game that doesn't really hold your hand. And I wasn't a big fan until 2020, where I played my first Dark Souls. I played Dark Souls 3, and then I played all of them. I actually
Wow.
bought the first game I played from them was Sekiro,
Mhm.
and I literally was like, I don't understand this game. Like, why is it so punishing? Why it's so hard? And it's the most accessible one, and I didn't finish it. And it was like, I wish I was just better at this game. And to be honest, I just didn't understand what the game wanted from me. But then when I was playing Dark Souls 3, which I was playing because I wanted a PS5 to play Demon Souls because it looked really cool and was like, maybe I can get into this now. It just clicked. Like one day it just clicked and it was like, okay, now I need to play everything that this guy's ever made. That's what I did.
Yeah, it's funny how when it doesn't click, you hate it because, I mean, just like you mentioned, it happened to me the first time I went to with Demon Souls back in the PS3 era. I mean,
Yeah.
but when it clicks, when you kind of, like, I don't know if it's like a patience thing where you realize that you have to be patient. You also realize, I know this is gonna sound very exaggerated from a video game, but you realize that you can't really like cling to your souls. Like, you have to
Yeah.
kind of exercise, what's the word in English, like letting go, right? You know, like
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
you have to accept that you're gonna die. It's a game about discipline. The things that you're gonna acquire from some, I don't want to say runs because like I don't even know, like with each of your lives
Hmm.
is knowledge. It does not exist in the game. If you play the game once, you finish the game and then you play it again, you would be like, I honestly can't believe how fast I'm going. That's how good these games are. You actually get better.
It is crazy because, like, I can't really explain the logic behind it because it goes beyond the fact that, oh, I learned the patterns of the attacks of the boss, right? But when you finish the game, just like you explained, like you could, like, on the first run of a whatever From Software game, let's just say Dark Souls 3, for example, you take, I don't know, 30 hours maybe, or around that. The
Yep.
second run could be like 10 or less.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah,
crazy how
100%.
fast you can go. So
And
yeah,
it,
no,
it's
go
insane
ahead.
because also like there are some bosses that you die the first 5 times if you never encountered them before, and you effectively think this is impossible. Like I do not have the tools to overcome this obstacle. I just don't. And then you do through almost like brute force because the cool thing about these games is that you only need, well, not these games, like in general, you only need to defeat the boss once. He
Hmm.
will kill you 1,000 times, but if you defeat him once, that's all it takes. And there are some really hard bosses in each of the games that From Software has made. I would say that they also understand what difficulty means, and even it's been turned into a genre. the core of the experience for me is what From Software makes. Like if you compare it with like Star Wars games, like the Fallen Order, that game has like different difficulty levels, and some bosses are just broken. Like I remember like one of the I think have you played that game?
Yeah, I loved it.
So it's super cool. But like for example, the last boss, I was playing on hard. I remember something like that, and it was just impossible. Like the timing, the reaction
Oh
times
yeah,
for me,
because the timing also gets shorter, right? On higher difficulties. Yeah, that's true.
yeah. And at that point, I was like, I need to change. I need to change difficulty. I can't. At that point, I was like, what this game needs from me right now. I don't physically have it, or like I don't really. I'm not having fun. But on the contrary, with From Software games, I remember like the last boss from Dark Souls 3, the expansion, Slave Knight Gael.
Oh, yep.
He's one for me. It's like one of the best video games fights ever, because like you start fighting and you're like, I have a fucking chance. I can take this guy, and then you don't, and then you learn how to fight him, and it's like, okay, you get better. So for me, it's an experience, and I think that in the case of these games, the core of the games is the difficulty.
Absolutely. I think that one thing that we could kind of shift from here is the conversation around, and if you hear weird noises, that's my dog snoring, so that's just a heads up. So I think that one thing that I've asked myself when this conversation comes around, because like we've discussed, it comes around every couple of months, the whole difficulty thing and the accessibility thing, which we'll all absolutely get into. But the thing that I always ask myself, and I haven't reached an answer that satisfies me yet, is let's say that the next From Software game, Elden Ring, which we know will come. Let's say that it has a difficulty setting, like you have easy, normal, and hard. Do you think that detracts from the game? Or do you think that nothing changes? Or does it add to the game? What's your opinion on that?
I think for them, it would be a paradigm shift, because what people look for in those games, the core of the experience, is that everyone is suffering kind of like the same thing.
Exactly.
Like everyone is sharing the pain. So if you finish it, like if you put that, then it's like, okay, finish it in normal. It would be kind of cool, but then it would be like, okay, now I need to finish it in hard. Or if you finish it in easy, it would be like, could I have done it in normal, and that kind of thing. And I think that I was thinking a lot about this, like why can't they put an easy mode? And it's the same thing that why Just Dance is not like doesn't have like a like just for example, if you have a game like Just Dance, you have to dance. That's the game, or at least
you can't just put the buttons. Yeah, sure.
I mean, you could do it. And same with a Guitar Hero, you can play with the controller, but then it's like, what's the point? And I think that's what they're going for. These games, the core experience of these games, is that they're hard. If you want to like, and if you remove that, what's left? Like the only thing that's cool about this game is that they're hard and they're unforgiving. Other than that, it's just they don't even look that good. Like, I mean, for the casual player, they look amazing for me, but
no, I totally agree. I mean, the best looking Souls game isn't even made by From Software. It's the Blue Point remake. So
yeah,
I agree. I do believe that they do have some environmental storytelling that is very masterful in my opinion, and the lore is really rich. And it's kind of funny because if you do this wrong, I would say it's lazy writing, but they kind of leave it abstract or vague enough for it to be interesting without having it be vague, right? Like it's kind of weird, but I mean that's kind of subjective as well.
And they create jobs for dozens of YouTubers to explain that.
Absolutely, and it's really quite interesting to go in that rabbit hole. Really, it's fascinating. And the thing is that you don't really know if they're correct. So yeah, it's totally weird. But back into the conversation of the difficulty. Selfishly, I admitted that I'm being very selfish here. I am afraid that adding the difficulty compromises the vision of the game. Because in the end, like I'm totally for more people having access to a great game. Like if it's possible, like for people with a disability or people, yeah, like with whatever thing that not doesn't allow them to experience a game, I am all for it. Like for example, The Last of Us Part 2, I remember that they were pretty adamant and they included like a ton of accessibility options that made the game available for so many people, and they even won awards for that, I think.
You could play the game being blind, 100%.
It's insane. I mean, the like I love the game. That was my game of the year that year. But even without that, that is so commendable. Like to me, I admire it so much.
Yeah.
However, yeah, exactly. However, in FromSoftware games, the experience that those games give me is like nothing any other game gives me. Even the ones that imitate it, like Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
I appreciate
a poster
it.
from Jedi Fallen Order. I didn't notice. Well, I was like, have you played it? It's like I can't see it because of the depth of field. Yeah, I didn't recognize it. I feel like an idiot. It's like, have you played this little hidden gem called Jedi Fallen Order? They made an upgrade recently.
I could very well be a poser and just have that just to for show, but I know exactly. I did play it. In fact, I platinumed it, but yeah, that's beside the point.
No way, that's insane.
But no, it was actually a pretty fun platinum because it wasn't that annoying. But back to the point, I think that the thing that really, I don't know, I'm scared. Like I find these games so special and they provide such a different experience for me. Like for example, because one of the things that is a main selling point for the game is the New Game Plus, and I totally love it. I think it's great, and it gives you a reason to go back, see different endings and whatever if you want to chase trophies, blah, blah, blah. Yep. But for me, the best playthrough of a FromSoftware game is the first one, where I am walking step by step, so slowly, looking everywhere, being wary of my surroundings because I don't want to fall into a trap, I don't want to fall into an ambush, I don't want to miss a single item. That's how I play that. I know it may sound insane and annoying to some people, but I just love it because I feel so immersed. And any sliver of that being compromised in any way just scares me. And that may make me a scared, selfish little man, but it's what I think.
I also think that these games have an incredible amount of emergent gameplay in the fact that if you don't know how to figure out something, then you basically go online and you figure out with other people, and then there's a lot of discussion into like what works, what doesn't work, and there's like this collective suffering around playing the game
and the community.
Yeah, exactly. Like the people you meet, the community. Like one of the strangest moments I've had playing a game was during my first run of Dark Souls 3. At some point, an invader was trying to help me. And this was all kind of like within the dynamics of the game that they're so bare bones. Like someone jumps into your game and tries to help you, and you're like, but they're supposed to kill you because they can kill you. And then he actually sent me a message through. I was like trying to escape from him. Then he sent me a message through PSN, and he's like, "Let me help you." And I'm like, "It's just like this is bait." Like this guy actually went outside and messaged me, and in the end, he was trying to help me. And we pretty much wiped an entire area of the DLC together. And I was just like, what the hell just happened here? And those types of interactions were possible because the game is so raw. Like I was scared, like, is this guy gonna attack me? And if he attacks me, I'm gonna lose like a bunch of souls that I need to level up, because like that's kind of like what the game is about. And that's pretty unique. And that stems from the difficulty. A game like The Last of Us, you could arguably just play it on, like, I think people call it journal mode, where you just need to like move forward and you like go for the story, and you will find a very compelling, dramatic story about revenge, full of characters that they are having a bad time and they're learning things and whatnot. But if you do the same thing in a Souls game, it's like what the hell are you doing? It's like I used to watch a lot of speedrunners and no hitters on Twitch, and it's just such a different game, because it's like this game takes me like hours to complete. This guy's like, they don't even get hit, and that's cool. You can't do that if you have an easy mode. It doesn't matter if you have an easy mode.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I kind of agree with a little bit of guilt, because I know that, like, if a person who suffers with some sort of blindness, because I mean blindness has like stages, it's not just you're
Yeah.
blind or you're not blind, or some sort of other disability, I'm sorry that they can't play it. I mean, I really am. But at the same time, I appreciate the experience so much, and I admire the devs so much that they're willing to stand on their feet and say, well, I'm sorry, but no, we're not going to include an easy mode. Like I actually do respect that, because I think it kind of has integrity on their side to stick up for what they believe and what they want to do. And yeah, I mean, it's just it's unfortunate. I just can't say much more than that on that front.
I would
But
say one thing, which is kind of like one of the topics around accessibility, which is like, if there's something that's stopping you from playing a game because you suffer from something, like, of course the game shouldn't like bring you any more problems into your life. And there are experiences that if the game designers are like, this is not crucial for you to have fun, or a younger audience. Like a good example I have is like, I was playing Ratchet and Clank in the PS5, the new one, Rift Apart. It was super cool, but it's an easy game. Like, it's like you can
super.
you don't need to, like, you don't need like special weapons to some guys and then switch the weapon. Like, you could upgrade like 3 weapons to the point that I was just at some point playing blindly. I was like, is this kind of like a Pixar movie for me? Like, I liked it. I thought it was fun, but I also realized that this is a game for everyone. Anyone can play it, because if you kind of like apply the same logic to Dark Souls and you like try to use any weapon, it's like, dude, you would be upgrading a weapon with resources that you no longer have in your playthrough anymore. Like, it's such a different. And if you die, nothing happens in a game like Ratchet and Clank, which is cool. Like, it's a
Yeah,
fun game. It's not a
yeah.
stressful game.
You don't always want to be stressed, but that stress kind of sometimes is exciting. I mean, absolutely, I totally agree with you. And something you said about Ratchet is that, like you said, like I played it on very hard, and I didn't feel difficulty at no point of the game. Like for me, it was like a normal game, so it was really weird. But yeah, like having that difficulty for me was kind of a little thing that I wanted to change. But if I wouldn't have had that, and if it had been an easier experience, it wouldn't have affected my enjoyment of the game in any way, I feel, because the stakes in that game lie in the story, in the characters, what's going on, which I think was pretty cool. I enjoyed that game pretty much. However, in Dark Souls and all these FromSoftware games, the stakes lie in what you're experiencing, in the how you are handling those enemies, how you're handling that difficulty. So yeah, I mean, I think that it would lose a lot if it had an easy mode. Unfortunately, yeah, that's what I think.
And
So
it's probably up to them, like, to figure out if how much money they need in order to keep making games, whether that plays out or not for them. Because I'm pretty sure that some people are played The Last of Us like with the permadeath mode and grounded, and it was like impossible. And some people did it, and some people found that experience there, and that experience is still there. Like, it could be, probably could be one of the most unforgiving games ever, if you actually say like, the challenge I want is this one. But at the same
absolutely.
time, if you're blind, you could also play the game, because there's a mode that whenever you look at something, like, there's so many options that there's no, like, you could literally be blind, the legally blind, and play the game and have fun and understand the story and do everything that someone else is doing.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, ideally, if you would tell me that, let's say, there's like we said before, Elden Ring has easy, normal, and hard. If the normal is what I'm used to in a Souls game, and then the other ones are variations of that, if truly, truly, truly that doesn't affect my normal playthrough, I would say go for it, because that would, like, there's no downside. The thing is that I don't know if there's a downside. You know, that's kind of my
Yeah.
thing. But
It's
yeah,
it's complex, because also it affects, in the case of a Souls game, it affects kind of like the learning curve. Like, if
yeah,
something is more forgiving, then you're like, okay, I'm gonna tank this hit, and I'm gonna tank this hit, and I'm gonna tank this grapple, and I'm gonna just go in and be greedy, and there's no punishment. But if their stakes are high, I remember, like, I think it was the twins in Dark Souls 3. They kill you with like two hits when the first time you reach them, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
damn it, like I don't have two hits in a row, I die. And I think it was Lady Butterfly in Sekiro that if you don't go like guns blazing and just like start slashing right away, it's just like learning those patterns is just almost impossible. Like you have to actually mitigate the aggressiveness of your gameplay, and without that being unforgiving, then you don't learn. You're just like, okay, what do I, what's the approach I have? So I get there is that, but I think that overall, like I always try to understand kind of like the trolls that go at it and go like good. And I think that there's always like an element of fear that what you have achieved is worthless because someone else can achieve it far more easy than you did. So it's like, why are you trying harding?
Totally. I mean, getting a little bit into the psychology of the trolls, which I think should be the title of a podcast or something.
Into the cave troll.
Exactly, into the cave troll's mind or something like that. I totally agree with you. I mean, the reason why they are like that and they're so obnoxious, because I am part of the Souls community in the sense that I enjoy it. I think you're as well, but I'm not part of the Get Good community. But I think that, yeah, I mean, the reason why they do that is because they're insecure that somebody else that doesn't have the skills is going to achieve the same, like get the same achievement as them. Whether that may be platinum trophy or whether that's just beating the game or beating a boss or whatever. So yeah, I totally agree. And that's kind of like, get over yourself, right? Like it's not necessary at all. But yeah, totally.
But there's also the thing that I think that where the whole thing, like it's where it comes from is the fact that some reviewers, some journalists are saying like, I don't finish the games, I play the games in easy. And then there's like, then why are you an authority on this? Like, how do you know
Absolutely.
that? Like, why should I trust your judgment? Like,
Absolutely.
why they hire you?
No, I mean, that's a great segue into the games journalist part, which is kind of, I think, a very different perspective, at least in my mind, because it's one thing for people with accessibility things, with the disabilities, the Get Good community, which is on the other polar opposite side. We're talking about like the consumer, right? Yeah. In this case, the games journalists, they are like, as you said, the authorities in terms of information, in terms of covering these games. And we get into the whole Colin Moriarty versus, I don't remember the other person's name. I'm sorry, but he or she said something like, yeah, I beat all my games on easy. And I think that was a games journalist as well. So Colin Moriarty's point, and I'm just gonna pull the tweet up just so I'm just not paraphrasing.
He tweeted like 1,000 tweets, so you could be paraphrasing or not.
I'm just gonna grab the first one, but yeah, you're totally right. The initial tweet of this person, she's called Natalie at Heart E Messia. I don't know who she is. She said, I have never played a game for review on anything but the easiest difficulty, and I never will. Here she was quote tweeting the Xbox tweet that we discussed that said beating the game on the lowest difficulty is still beating the game. So if she's saying that she's never played a game on harder than easy difficulty for a review, I'm assuming, just like yourself, that she's some sort of journalist or some sort of YouTuber or somebody who covers games for a living. And so this was initially quote tweeted by Sophia Narwitz, who is a very controversial person on Twitter. I follow her, but I mean, she always gets all these games journalists very riled up, and I kind of enjoy it just for entertainment's sake. She said, I miss the days when game journalists and writers actually tried to be good at their jobs. And then, so Colin Moriarty quote tweeted her and said, if you can't or won't beat games on anything harder than easy, and you're reviewing them from that perspective and not from the perspective of an average player, then your criticism is worthless. Seek out critics who actually like video games. It's all getting a little trite. And yeah, as you said, he kind of replied to that with a ton of other tweets. He replied to other people. He did clarify, because there's a personality. I think his name is Steven Spohn. Yeah. He kind of quote tweeted this and said that, oh, if so my coverage is worthless. And then Colin Moriarty kind of he kind of clarified that he wasn't really talking about disabled gamers and all that. He was specifically talking to lazy gamers, which I thought, I mean, it's like I've understood from the get-go he was not talking about that, but in Twitter you kind of have to be very clear so that people don't
But it's so low. It's so low that immediately you say something like that, they're like, "Oh, you're talking about disabled people," and it's like, "No, I'm talking about like lazy people at their jobs." Like
exactly.
that's it. Like no one's saying that if you're disabled you shouldn't play games. What they're saying is like if this is your job, you should have to be good at it. And I think that I want to go back to the example of Jedi Fallen Order. Like
Hmm.
that game tries to be a Souls game, and at its heart it's kind of not, because it's Star Wars and then people will have to play it. And there were some things in that game that I think that if you played it in normal, you'll be like, okay, um this could be improved, like timing mechanics, like the pacing of the last act and the difficulty spikes, stuff like that. If you play it on the easiest mode, it's almost like a story driven game, which is
Yeah,
like a complete different genre, completely different genre. So you should be
totally.
able to say this. And I think that Colin Moriarty also likes to dig himself in a hole, like with the whole Returnal thing, where he platinum a game that he didn't like. He was like, I'm bad at this game, but in the end he sunk like 120 hours to do everything, like to platinum it. And I think it
Yeah.
was mostly because people were like, well, you're a journalist and you're a reviewer, so you need to do this. And he did.
No, yeah, I think in the end, because I mean, I follow him a lot. I listen to his podcast weekly.
Sure.
I'm like a their day one for everything. I do believe he kind of quit the platinum thing because it's very annoying. I got the platinum in Returnal, and I do not recommend it to anybody because it makes you hate the game. I mean, everything
Yeah.
like the last few trophies are RNG based. You have to find these ciphers, which in the beginning I thought it was cool because it's this whole thing, but the fact that I have to run through biome 2 almost literally 80 times in a row, it's just nobody deserves that.
It's a bad
So
trophy list. I think that the
totally,
game,
totally.
even the last part for the real ending, where you have to find the pieces of the sun and whatnot. For people listening, like basically you finish the game once, but you don't get the real ending. To get the real ending, you need to find kind of like hidden pieces of an object in each of the levels that you played before, and they're quite hard to find. And in this game, if you die, you go back all the way to the beginning. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. And
It
I
is a pain
think
in the
that
ass.
that game is a game that is so like it's a hard game. Like your game, your guns slowly progress, but it's another game where I was honestly thinking I'm probably not good enough for, like, I don't see myself finishing this game ever. And then I did, but it did take me a lot more tries than some of my friends. I died like, I don't know, like 40 times, and I have friends that they died 12 to get the first ending.
Okay. I think I died about maybe 15 or something like that. But yeah, I mean it's hard. But the cool thing is that these games, like I have played roguelikes. I'm not a big roguelike fan in general because I think I need to feel that I'm making progress, right? Like the fact that my progress is deleted when I die kind of just goes against everything that I go to games for, right? Like that's for example the reason why Majora's Mask is not in my top five is that because I mean the fact that I clean the waters of the first temple because they're poisoned by whatever creature and then the clock goes back and that's gone. It's like why the fuck am I doing this? But well, we're just I'm
But
just I
that's
digress.
that. I guess that's, well. I don't think you're digressing. Like that's part of the discussion. Like these games, the narrative behind these games is the difficulty, and I also understand. And I would be, I would try to have sympathy with someone whose job is tied to skill set or something, and like they're under pressure. And it's like, well, I get it. Like I don't want you to get fired from your game as a journalist if you can review a game, but you do your best, like, and you can
Absolutely.
always make it. You can always make a review like, hey, I haven't finished it, or this is what I have played so far, and be honest about it. It's a really hard game, but there have been controversies or like some opinions from people that they don't seem to like games, because it's like if this is the experience that everyone's gonna have, and you're like, no, I'll have the very easy mode. Very easy modes are to some extent disruptive of the overall experience. Like it's not the same game.
Yeah, it's not what the developer intended. It's not what the things are balanced for. Like it's not really. Like you said, like it's like, for example, a couple years ago, Tropical Freeze, the latest Donkey Kong game, got released with this Funky Kong mode where you just like literally surf through the spikes and everything. I mean, that's kind of funny, but it's not the game. It's right, like no, it's not the game.
Or the Mario games. But that I think it's in the last in Mario Odyssey. You're if there's a mode where you're basically always a cat, or like you can't die, stuff like that. Which again, I think it's cool. Like I think that those games, the experience is like you walk around, eat mushroom, eat flowers, and then you throw fireballs. And if it's easier or harder, it's not really going to change overall what you're trying to get in, what you're getting into it. So I think in that case, it's cool. But there are some other games that we really never have this discussion. Like I don't think there's an easy mode on Zelda. Like you just play
No,
Zelda, and that's it in Breath of the Wild. And no one's like, oof, what's happening that we don't have an easy mode? And it's because like probably it's easy enough, or like you can do some things that makes it easier if you take your time. But again, I think that the expectation here with the journalist is it's I think it's valid. Like if you're writing about politics and you don't know enough and you don't know about geography or politics itself, it's like then why are you here? Like why am I listening to you? Like there's a balance
absolutely,
between it's the same thing like when you watch streamers. There are some streamers that they're not that good. And I like the example of Dr. Disrespect. Like he puts on a wig, he has sunglasses, he's in character, he's playing like really demanding games while he's putting on a show. So I don't expect him to kill 30 people in Warzone every time he drops. But I wouldn't like him if he just always dies on the first 5 minutes of every drop. And that's kind of like the balance that you have to look for. Some people look for seeing the best Warzone or Fortnite player when they go into Twitch. And I expect him not to put on a show, not to have a character.
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. The thing is that the difference in both examples is that one is entertainment, and where is the entertainment? Like sometimes the entertainment lies in the fact that the streamer is crazy good at Overwatch or at Warzone,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. So in the case of Doctor Disrespect, it's more him, like his persona. So that's totally valid. In the case of games journalists, there are two problems that I see. One you already mentioned, and it's that if you don't like games, what the hell are you doing here? That's kind of a very obvious question, which seems obvious, but it seems like we also need to ask it, right? Like it's weird. And then the other thing is that you're supposed to be informing people about this game that's coming up, this game that you, in your point of privilege, and when I say privilege, I mean that you get it not only for free, but you get it days earlier just so you can do your job. And you're supposed to inform people. If you only play Mario in the cat mode, where you're a cat, then people don't get to find out about the raccoon power up. People don't get to find out about how cool it is to maybe do a run where you don't use power ups. People don't get to find out some other things like the real game. Where is the real game? I don't believe that the real game lies in the easy mode as much as I don't believe that it lies in the very hard mode. I think it lies more in the normal mode. Like that's my like minimum requirement. Like if you're reviewing a game, at least tell me you finished it on normal. And this is also a point that Colin makes, which I think is also very valid. If you can't finish the game for whatever reason, maybe it's broken, maybe it's too hard, whatever it may be, make that the point of the review. Like, it's totally valid to say, hey, I played this for 40 hours and I couldn't get past world 2.4. This is why. Like, I'm disclosing that beforehand, and you're kind of making it the thesis of your review. I think that's totally valid as well. Because, like you said, like it's like I do empathize with the fact that these people have to do their job. They have to write thousands of words by a deadline. And I mean, what happens if maybe I don't like shooters or I'm horrible at shooters? I have to do a Doom Eternal review. Like, what the hell do I do? Okay, that's cool. I mean, first of all, I would maybe question the person who assigned that review to you, because you're probably not the best person to do it. But then do that. Like, say, I couldn't finish it because of this reason, and this was my experience. If that's what your review is, it's probably not going to be helpful for me as a consumer, but I'm going to understand it. I'm going to respect your decision to have written that, right? That's my whole point.
And also, I think there's a third element here, which is they have huge power, economical power on both the studios and overall the outcome of the game. Like, journalists could just gang up and decide this game is shit, and then the game won't make it. And they can do the opposite, like how exactly happened with Cyberpunk, which is like, whoops. So here's the review. The game doesn't run all that good, but I really like my Cyberpunk jacket and my Cyberpunk laptop and my
The chair.
Cyberpunk mug. Exactly, so I'm sure that they're gonna patch it later this week.
Yeah.
And in both those examples, and I like to think of, for example, Days Gone, when which we talked about a little bit on last episode. When it released, everyone's like, don't play this game, period. And it was obvious that they didn't play the game. So and that game suffered commercially, and the studio
Totally.
suffered. And these are people that they live in Oregon, and if that studio closes, those families will have to relocate. And I'm not saying that you have to lie and say, hey, everyone, play this game, because there are no other AAA studios in Oregon, so all these families will be relocated, and that would be traumatic for children. No, it's just this: give an honest review, an honest opinion, and whether the studio makes it or not, whether the game sells or not, you're definitely an important part of it. And I think that in the case of games being badly rated, it has to do with how you experience it. And it could be like, well, this game did nothing to me. And well, maybe it did nothing to you because you played it on super easy mode and you didn't see the challenge, you didn't see yourself invested into the gameplay and into what you learn. At the same time, I think that there are a lot of biases right now in the industry when a game rolls out. Like, no one really talks anymore about how some franchises release the same game over and over again, or they're just not that good, and they don't hold these AAA studios to high standards. And I'm talking about like Ubisoft, for example. They continue releasing, they keep releasing games that, if they weren't part of a franchise, if they didn't come from Ubisoft, people would be like, why does this game exist? And it's not being, and it's because, and they're reviewed very softly. They're like, okay, this game's an 8. It's like, well, why? If it's the same game, or if it's not that good, then why is this number here? And there are commercial interests behind it, and they know it.
Totally. No, totally. I mean, I was a big Assassin's Creed fan back in the. I mean, I have played most of them, but I was a big fan in the 1, 2, 3 era.
It was insane.
And
Like when that game was released, people don't really remember how incredibly groundbreaking those games were. It was really jaw dropping. It was like, games can do this.
especially the second one blew my mind. Blew my
Yeah,
mind absolutely, because there is a point. I mean, spoilers for Assassin's Creed 2. I mean, it's a very it's like a 12-year-old game. So yeah.
exactly.
I mean, there is a moment where Ezio, for some reason, understands that he is not the protagonist of the story, and it's Desmond, and
Yep.
he talks to Desmond, and he doesn't. Desmond is not gonna be he's not gonna be born for like hundreds of years, or maybe thousands, no, hundreds of years,
Hundreds of years.
and he talks to him. He. Oh no, wait. That's in the other one. That's in the
I think it's the
Revelations.
third one. It's in Revelations. I think it's
It's in Revelations.
It's in
Exactly.
Revelations.
Yeah, no, but I think that the point that was really impactful for me in the second one was when, what's her name? Minerva. Minerva appears at the end, and she talks to Desmond, but it's kind of a fourth wall breaking moment where she's talking to you.
Yeah.
Like she's like, Ezio, get out of here. Like, I'm talking to this person, and it's kind of
It's
that's
really,
fucking
really cool. It's really,
Yeah.
really cool. That game kept getting better and better and better. And I think that they have they have had some games where you're like, this experience, it's insane and it's good, and then they always manage to just like turn it into this giant mess of question marks inside of a map that don't mean anything to anyone. Like they landed, and I think it happened with Far Cry. They landed a really cool villain in Far Cry 3, and then they were like, well, that's our thing, good good villains. And it's like, that's not the thing. It's not like what exactly happened, but they keep going with it, and now it's the whole thing, and they forgot about like the core experience of the things that they're supposed to do, and they feel like this unfleshed out products that they're like, they just promise like 90 hours of gameplay, and it's like 90 hours one. Why should I play 90 hours of this? Why should I play 90 hours of side quests when they're boring? And that's I think that's the difference when you have to talk like about different orders of magnitude to what it is fun. That a game is hard and it's challenging, it's fun. That a game takes 80 hours does not mean anything. It's just time that is going through, that you're just passing by. And I think that's also kind of like the metric. Like I feel bad. Like I don't expect reviewers to platinum Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I honestly just expect them to play the main story or something like that, and then just tell me, is this better than the last game of Assassin? Is it different than the last Assassin's Creed game? And they're probably gonna be
Probably
like,
not.
exactly. But that should be the review. Like, hey, you already played this game. If you like the other one and now you like this one, you like Vikings, get it. But it doesn't. It's not meaningless. Like it's not meaningful. It's meaningless.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, they did have a couple of them where they did rehaul the mechanics, like for example from Assassin's Creed Syndicate, because I have masochistly subjected myself to almost all of them. The only one I haven't played is Valhalla, and it's because I think I just, there's so many good things out there that it's just why, right?
Yeah.
So, but like from Syndicate to Origins, I mean the game did change a lot, and that kind of change I think is totally valid. I appreciate it a lot. The other change that they're doing now, and I think we're going off topic, but I'm just going to mention it, is that they're going to do a live service game. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
That to me is the death of Assassin's Creed. Like I'm not going to play anything else anymore. Like totally decreed. You know, it's
But exactly, but like, what is this game about? What
yeah.
is the essence? And I think that it's in the same line with the difficulty, in sense of the essence of those games. No, if you do a review on Assassin's Creed and you say, "Hey, I played on the easiest mode that exists," no one's gonna be like, "What? You did one?" And it's like, or if someone says, I finished Watch Dogs, like on the easy mode, it's like, okay, like, that's not the point of the game. The point of the
Yeah,
game
nobody
is
cares. That's true.
it's exploration, it's shooting around, it's hacking and whatnot. And with Assassin's Creed, it's like the point of the game, I don't even know what it is anymore. Like honestly, like if you ask me, like, why should I, I saw the gameplay of, because this was originally a stealth game at its core, and then suddenly you're raiding villages and doing Viking stuff, but you happen to have a blade, like you happen to have a really inconvenient blade on your wrist, which, like, everyone talks about it, like it's like this is not a convenient tool. Like it's why that, and not, you already have a knife. Like, what do you like? I don't know. Like at some point that was a discussion in the Assassin's Creed, kind of like ethos. Like, is the blade even that good? Like, and nowadays it's like, who gives a shit about the blade? Yeah, you have
Yeah.
assassins and you have Templars, and that seems to be the only thing that vaguely remains. Like, there are two sides on this eternal battle. But in that sense of like live service games, no one's gonna tell you that, oh, you're reviewing this in easy mode or in hard mode. It's like, are you experiencing, because it's not the core of the experience. But the times, every time that this has happened, like this controversy pops up, it's usually around games that either either it doesn't really matter, like I think it's the case of Psychonauts 2, or
Yeah.
it's essential to it, like in the From Software games. Like, just don't buy the game if you don't like it. That's it.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. I mean, my ultimate answer when the thing comes up with Sekiro is that, I mean, I'm sorry that you can't finish this game, whoever you are, but there are thousands of games out there. Like, I mean, it is very cool to experience, but analyzing this with you, I feel that, well, I think that this may have been your point, and maybe I missed it, but if you don't have the stress of the difficulty, those games lose more than half their value in the experience. I mean, not in money, not in money. So if you're gonna miss that, then you're not really missing out on anything.
Yeah,
Correct?
play something else.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, what are you? Why are you here? Like, if you don't want this game to be hard, you want to read the lore in the items. Like
You could,
otherwise you can finish the game in a couple of hours. These games are not that long if you actually can defeat every boss
yeah,
consistently. You could finish it on like around 3 or 4 hours on your first
maybe.
playthrough if it's easy, because it's just going through a map. So there's some balance there, but also I think it's like two different topics. Like, it's like, is it hard, or you actually have some condition, or you're disabled in a way that you can enjoy the game, in which case I am sorry that you can experience the world at its fullest because of something that happened to you or you were born with on. And I think that there are other alternative experiences, like watching Twitch, watching people playing on Twitch, watching YouTube Let's Plays, or just buying different type of hardware that would allow you to play the game, stuff like that. And I think that that's a different way of, you have to, like, how you face the world that exists. Because I'm sure that even though in The Last of Us 2 you can just be blind and play the game with just touching one button, there are even people that can do that, and they would like to have something like The Last of Us 2 around. And I think that could be the TV show. I don't know, like, you can't really make a game for everyone. If
Yeah,
I don't know, like, you just can't. I think it's super hard.
absolutely, man. Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, I think that the last point that I wanted to touch is something that we kind of glazed over a while ago, and it's the going a little bit more in the games journalists are bad at their jobs. I find that so funny, but it's true. I mean, I mean, at least one of them has to be bad at it, right? I mean, in terms of pure statistics, like, has to be.
It's a dying business model. Of course, they have to be like, why would you jump in? Why would you nowadays? Why would you rather be working for them, where you can just do this and have your own thing and get people to support you right away? Why do you want to be working for IGN when you could have your own thing and have your own podcast or do something else? Like, it's an industry that people no longer need. If you nowadays, if you want to see, if you want to buy a game, you have online communities. You have basically, like, all of YouTube to tell you whether you should buy the game or not. And and also the fact that this world lives around, like, a whole economy of clicking, then generates the incentive of generating outrage. And that happens, like, if you're bad at if your review is bad, then you should shake it up and be like, how do I get people to click this? And then you do things like, I remember, like, there was an article, I don't know if it was Polygon, but it was like, defund the police. Is it time for Mass Effect to should we be playing Mass Effect or something like that? And it's like, they want
Yeah,
clicks.
yeah,
Like, no one in their right mind are seeing, like, these topics tied to each
dude.
other.
I have seen, and I mean, I know that she's a controversial figure, as I said before. Sophia Narwitz, she always like retweets these people when they do these articles, and whether you agree or not, like, the far reach you are doing, the defund the police with Mass Effect is totally like asinine. They did one where they equated Animal Crossing to exploitation of like environment, because you fish and then you put that in like a zoo, like an aquarium.
Yeah, yeah. I
They
read
they
that one
did
too.
they did
And,
one
and the
where,
one with the have you do you remember that game that had, like, this kick-ass trailer that it was like Pokemon, but you enslave the Pokemons, and then there's like a shooter, and and I honestly don't even know if that game is real, but it was so fun to see that. And then people were like, "How dare they?" And these are verified journalists. They should be able to say, "This is just for the laughs. The game's probably not even going to be about this. Can we focus on cool stuff, or can we just have fun because these are video games?" Like, they're just relentlessly generating like stress in order for people just to click, and that's not fun.
You know, I recently found this account slash website that's called Hard Drive Magazine. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, of course.
They are like the Chiguira Bipolar of video games. And it's,
Yeah.
oh my God, they're so good. It's like, it's so good because you would think that those articles come from these people and they don't. So
You don't
it's
even
so
know
funny.
anymore. It feels like satire. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
if someone says I'm playing the game on the easiest mode and that's how I do all my reviews, it's like, it sounds almost as satire. And it's like,
Absolutely.
and it's like, it's okay if you can't finish a game. It's okay if a boss is kicking your ass. It's like, it should be fun. It should be part
Yeah.
of the experience. Not all the experience can be I sat on my couch for 8 hours straight and I finished the game immediately. And in the sense of the quality of this content is just low, and that's why people go to places like Last and Media to listen to their podcasts, or this podcast, in the sense that I want to hear from people that they love games, they don't have anything against games, they don't have another agenda that has to do with anything outside entertainment, because it
Yeah.
feels that way. It feels like you want to be part of a bigger conversation, but you're stuck writing about games. And it's like,
Absolutely. Exactly what you just mentioned is what the point I had in my head because my brain was loading in all these articles. I remembered. Did you see the review? I think it was Kotaku or Polygon. To me, those two are interchangeable. Like
yeah,
the PS5 review of one of those is this person saying, "How can I review this console in this political climate?"
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah. What, do we really
come
need
on,
another
man.
console in this? And it's like, what political climate? Like, it is, okay, I get it. Like, you're in America, but like, I could, I could have, I want a PS5.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's like, it comes from guilt. And then if one, that's the thing, like, the people that read them, they're very passionate, so they're going to feel attacked immediately, and they're going to engage with clicks and views and the metrics that they really care about. And so, if it's, to me, it's sad, because you're getting a gut reaction from your own audience in order just to push your own metrics. And it's like, why are you manipulating these people that way? Like, some people could really use a PS5. Like, yeah, I don't know, I'm having a really bad year, and it's like, I just want to run a game. I play a game that runs at 60 FPS. Is that so bad? Should I feel guilty about it?
Exactly. So that guy has to feel like an asshole because you want to push your little thing. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I think that there's still some really good game journalists out there, and some
Yeah.
really good channels, and really passionate people about very specific communities. So my advice is, if you want to know, like, should you play a game, just ask people. Like, I was asking the other day, like, I've never played a Yakuza game, and I saw that there's a new trailer for Judgment, and I was like, okay, this seems like, if I don't need to play 7 games in order to enjoy this one, can I do this? And people were like, giving me like honest feedback. Like, I don't, and I went to see like the IGN review of the game, and it was so bland. It was so nothing, that it was like, I'm just gonna play it because my friends told me, and that ended up being the main trigger.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can kind of answer that in a little bit because I'm playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. I'm totally enjoying it. And from what I understand, Judgment is like a spin-off, but it doesn't really tie that directly, so you can really play it without having played
And
the...
I've also heard. Have you played a Yakuza game before, like a Dragon, or is your first Yakuza game?
So I have tried to get into Yakuza 0 because I have, well, John, he loves Yakuza. He has played all of them. And he's like, these are so good. To me, the Japanese thing where they mix very goofy things with very dramatic things is something that I have a hard time with.
Yeah. I
However,
understand.
yeah. However, this time with Like a Dragon, it clicked for me, and I'm glad. Like I'm gonna see it through to the end. And from what I gather, like seeing trailers and stuff, Judgment is more serious than Yakuza.
Yeah.
Like you're a cop, you're a detective, you're doing these things. So And I don't know if you saw the trailer for Lost Judgment.
Yeah,
That's the one that sold me on the entire franchise, like even Yakuza. Like,
I saw that trailer and it was like, I don't know much about this, but this looks sick. I want to play it. Like, I want to know what's happening here. And I think that it's really hard to get that emotion from like a mainstream media review from games. It's almost impossible. Like, it's been a long time since I watched a review that I finished and I'm like, I am convinced that I want to play this game. I want a gut feeling reaction. That's why I like
absolutely.
Angry Joe's video reviews, or like Moist Critical, and his I don't know if you've seen it. Like, he has like this Moist meter thingy where he just like goes through his emotions playing the game and why he liked it, and that's usually the type of review I want. Like, I had fun with the game, and because we share like a similar background or we like similar type of games, I know what I'm getting at. But if you put it just like out there, like if someone were to describe me Dark Souls 3 out of the box, and it'd be like, well, it is a relentless experience and sometimes you die, and it feels like, well, it doesn't. But if someone comes and it's like, hey, this is a very transformative type of game that changes the way you see games, it's like, well, this sounds like what I want. Like, it comes out of the experience, and that's why you should live through it. And what's the same thing with Death Stranding? You see the reviews of Death Stranding, and everyone's like, "This game is insane." And then I played it, and I was like, "This game is definitely not for me. This is not my game at all. I don't want to." And now it's coming There's the new patch,
Mhm.
and I don't even know if I'm gonna play it, but I feel like I should give it another try. But I honestly don't want to. Like, I'm conflicted.
You know what? That's a game I enjoyed that I can't recommend to anybody. I can't. I mean, because it's so weird. It's so, and not weird's not the word, but like there's so much potential for you to hate it that I just don't want to recommend it. You know, that's kind of
Yeah.
what I feel.
Yeah. When I first I like, one of my favorite countries in the world is Iceland. I would say the first, well, from the ones I've been, like, I'm a massive fan, and my time there was just like transformative for me as a human being. And the idea that I could be just like cruising on this really volcanic landscapes, trying to save mankind with this kick-ass music, I was like, I have to love this game. And then I played it, and it was like, I am not having fun. Like, and I watched a lot of reviews. I bought it day one, but I watched a lot of reviews because I wanted to know like exactly what this game is about. Because the only thing Kojima, I think he effectively said, was, it's a strong type game, and and I played. I was like, okay, I get what this game is about. I get how it works, but I'm stressed out. I played during the pandemic as well, so it was almost like this is the game of the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah.
Delivering things from one side to the other because everyone's fucking dead. And the game isn't hard. Actually, you can't die in the game. I think that's kind of like, you
No, right?
always,
No.
because you get like dragged into some, like, the fact, the way that you die, because in the end, death obviously does not exist in video games. Like, you do not die, you lose progress. And here, like, you lose progress, like, you're dragged out and you lose your boxes and you have to pick them up. And that's, I wouldn't say that that's hard, but that for me was so frustrating. Like,
Yeah,
the
it's
whole, like,
tedious. Right.
it's
Yeah.
tedious. And no one is asking for an easy mode for Death Stranding, because you can't see the complexity of Death Stranding. You can't see why this game is hard. It's hard for me as a player on what I
Mentally.
usually mentally.
Mentally.
So I remember just like, fuck it, and I replayed Breath of the Wild, which in the end, it was what I wanted. I wanted to just like be chilling around, like, while I'm trapped in my house, I want to be free somewhere else, and that wasn't the game.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you were looking for, Breath of the Wild is like the recipe. But I mean, the reason why I would maybe recommend Death Stranding, now that we're going into this, is that Kojima, he's such a, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, he's such a special artist. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't conform to the platform he's on. I'm not even talking about Sony or Xbox. I'm talking about video games. He
Yeah.
doesn't really conform to like, is it a movie? Is it a game? Is it a UPS man simulator? It's all of those, and it's none of those.
Yeah.
It's weird. And in the end, the performances, like for me, story is kind of what sells me on the game. And the story, I can't tell you that I understood the whole thing of it. It's kind of he has like very specific film influences, like perhaps David Lynch, Nicholas Winding Refn, people who I don't really like their movies, but like it's a very surreal experience. But in the end, I enjoyed that. The gameplay, and like I have asked myself if I want to platinum this game, and I think the answer is no, because the part of the game that I enjoyed, I already experienced. The gameplay is not really a selling point for me. Experiencing the director's cut is probably not gonna be for me either. But I would say that for one playthrough, if you already own it, I would recommend maybe swinging by once again to see if maybe it catches you, and if it doesn't, just delete it.
Yeah, that's kind of like my mindset with this new patch. So I'll probably give it another go and see in between my Mass Effect sessions, but I'm not confident that that's gonna be the game. And I'm a huge Kojima fan. Like I love. I think I played all the Metal Gears. Even like obviously like some of them on emulation.
Okay.
Like kind of like the full experience. And I think it's what you said. Like he's beyond the media. He's beyond things being a game. He questions everything about what you expect from a game, and it goes all the way back to you like switching the memories, the controller in the PS1. It goes all the way to what other tricks he had when you turn off
The back of the box. Remember, he had something that was in the back of the box.
the Cheryl. I think it was the Cheryl codec
Frequency.
number. Frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, hey, check that out. And I think that in the end, in Snake Eater, you can kill him by just turning off your PlayStation and leaving for like, I think it's like 48 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's so cool. Like it escapes me. And there's a lot of it. I think the essence of that is Death Stranding, in the sense that the world is built with the different tools that all the other players create for you, and that's really cool. Like it's the ultimate paradigm, which is the game that you are playing is a collective experience, and that is something that also the reviews fail to grasp. Like they fail to inform you that it's like they didn't understand what the game was about. They were like, "Hoo, this is a weird game from a Japanese developer. It's not Metal Gear. 10 out of 10." You know?
Absolutely. No, totally. And there's always going to be those people that didn't understand it, but give it a 10 because they didn't understand it, and they don't want to admit that they didn't understand it. That's always going to be something in art that I think is so funny.
But I think that's cool for video games, because like it exists
absolutely.
in movies. Like if a movie doesn't work for you, you just don't go and watch it. It's simple as that. Not every game should be for everyone, and there are games that not everyone's gonna play it, but other games can borrow things from them, and then you could end up having a Souls-like game that's from Star Wars. But if without Dark Souls, without that difficulty level, without FromSoftware, I'm sure that Fallen Order would not exist. Would be a different game.
Absolutely. So to end that topic, that is the main topic of the show, and to go into the final parts of this episode, which has been amazing, I would just like to ask you one question. Maybe two, but they're unrelated. So let's go for the first one. Do you think that reviewers need to finish games before they post their review?
Not really.
Oh, okay. Be quiet.
I think that, I mean, if they should try to finish. If they can't, they should be explicit about it and why that happened. But the best scenario is where they finish the game. Like, sure. I appreciate if someone actually finished the game. But sometimes the games are so bad that the fact that you didn't continue playing could be pretty much the case. And there are games that I didn't finish because they were bad. And I was like, I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah. I have this thing where I have to finish them. It's like kind of an OCD thing. But I have had it where I finish it and then I regret it. So that's kind of my version of that. But yeah, I totally agree. I think that, like, in general, the ideal is that the person finishes it so that they can give very detailed and, I don't know, like, fair assessment of the game, right? Because, like, we've seen movies probably where it's so good up until the last 10 minutes and then it all goes downhill. Like,
Exactly.
maybe I'm trying to think of. I mean, Game of Thrones is a great example. In this case, not the movie, but the last season, it was like,
I wouldn't go as far as that. I would say that at the beginning, like some Uncharted games, they peak halfway through.
okay, that's true.
That's an example of saying like, hey, this game at the end it kind of lags, so I don't like. And I think that for me, it's like I love Uncharted games, but I know that the biggest action set pieces are gonna be like in the middle.
The
I
the,
know
the,
that
the train and all that, right? Yeah.
the train, the jeep in the four, like yeah, there are some cool things happening at the end. It's the end of the story, but it's also the end. Like it's gonna be a big shootout. It's gonna be pretty hard, and then Nathan Drake should just jump out of the window and then be next to his wife, like, can you believe that? Where's my brother? That type of thing. And then that's it, and that's fun. But I know that at the end, it's like this is what you get. Some other games like if you didn't finish The Last of Us, if you were to write a review of The Last of Us 2 and you're like, I'm barely finishing, I'm in California, so I'm guessing like I have like 1 hour left. If you say that, then you're probably in trouble, because I do remember like playing that game being like, oh, I'm in California, I only have like 30 more minutes, it's 2 a.m., let's wrap this up, and then it's 7
5
a.m.
a.m.
because
Yeah.
exactly, it's like it's daylight, and I'm like, damn it. And
Yeah.
I think so you actually need to like know what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a valid point that it depends on the game. It depends on some things. And if you don't finish the game, disclose it so people know what they're getting
Yeah.
into. People know what your bias or maybe preconceived notions or, yeah, what your state is towards
Yeah,
the game.
what's left for you to do, because that's also a part of like how you do because there's an element of money here. This is expensive for some people, like it's 80 euros or 70 euros, and it's like, hey, I did the main story, it was 20 hours, but there's a lot more to do. And if you're the type of person that likes this and that, or like if you're reviewing Red Dead Redemption, it's like, hey, I did 50 hours on the main story, but it's an open world and you should experience it. And we saw a little bit of it in the playthrough, and yeah, and I think that that's how you should have kind of like a wholesome review. If you were to review a game like Sekiro and you can't finish it, you could be like, hey, it kicked my ass. Go out
I
there and
tried.
exactly, I tried. It kicked my ass. If you're into ass kicking, this is gonna make it for you.
I prepared to die, and that's all I could do.
Yeah.
Okay, so my last question for you, and then we'll get into what we're playing, is which is your favorite Metal Gear?
I would say that's a complex one. I would say that the Metal Gear Solid was the one that blew my mind to the point of like what's a game. But I think that the last one, like Metal Gear 5, seemed to be kind of like the magnus opus of gameplay that that Kojima had in mind. So I think I enjoyed the fifth one a lot, but I loved all of them. So I would be in between Metal Gear Solid and a Metal Gear 5 Phantom Pain.
I think that is very surprising for a couple of reasons. Because Metal Gear Solid 5, I that was like one of my top games that year. I enjoyed it a lot. I think I even platinumed it, and that was a hefty one.
Yeah.
But nobody likes that game. Have you noticed that? Like everybody kind of hates it.
It's not the game of the generation,
No,
and
it's
you
true.
should like it's I don't want to say it's a hidden gem or it's like underappreciated or anything, but I think that there was so much that you needed to know in order to get into that game. And the game is so different because it's like you're not a big boss, you're not Snake, you're like, I mean, you are, but it's very conceptual who you are. You're just kind of like the stunt double.
Exactly.
And but it tries so hard to be to be the best game it can be, and I think it achieves it. But I also see part of the things I like is that it's not complete. Like you see there's something missing, like you see that the third act or the things that were like laid out there, they're not fully linear. So it's like something happened there that it didn't melt into a masterpiece, but it's still a masterpiece. Like it's flawed. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's totally valid. I mean, I think that probably what happened is that Kojima was taking a long time. Konami got mad and they fired him. I mean, I think that's basically what happened.
Yeah.
Have you seen there are like renders, pre-renders, and conceptual arts that they pulled together to kind of make the third act, and it's on YouTube and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
interesting.
I saw that, and I also, what I like a lot, that the game that they did after that was the one with zombies, and it was so bad.
Oh
Like
my
I
god.
love the fact that once Kojima left, Konami was like, we will burn everything to the ground. Like it was almost, like it was almost like ironic. Like
Yeah.
one, like they destroyed it. It was like this. There will not be another Metal Gear, and we are proud of that to that extent. So for me, it's also that's cool. Like the only one who can make Metal Gear, it's Kojima. No one else can. No one else will.
I truly believe that, and that's why I am very interested but very skeptical of the movie that Jordan Vogt Roberts is doing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know about it, but supposedly Kojima has seen the script and he approved it. So
But it's
I
so
will.
stupid. I think I wrote about this in my newsletter like a while back, and I think it was Metal Gear exists because other movies exist. Like
Okay,
there's no reason to do a Metal Gear movie in the same way that there's
Uncharted.
no exactly in the same way that there's no need for an Uncharted movie. Like we already have Harrison Ford, National Treasure. Like it's already happening. And the same thing, I would even go as far as saying like The Last of Us exists because The Walking Dead existed, and 28 days later existed,
And the road, yeah, absolutely.
and then the road, and it's like why? Like I get it, it's money, but it's like it's not the point. Maybe something incredibly original like Borderlands could exist for some reason, but even when we discussed it back then, it was like why? And I think that this is the case for Metal Gear. It's like Oscar Isaac is gonna be Metal Gear, and it's gonna be Snake, and it's like so what? you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
like it's not that's not the point. The point of Metal Gear was to elevate the media
Yeah,
that it's games. Like the fact that they have Kiefer Sutherland in the last game, and who back then was massive action star. It was groundbreaking, and the whole gameplay was insane, and like it expands beyond being a game, and it's really mature, and like all the references that are pulled from outside in. So I really like it. I think that if I have to be like not my opinion, but like objectively looking at it, I would say the third one, Snake Eater, is probably the best Metal Gear one. Like that game is just like wow.
yeah. It brought on some new things. Like I loved when I got shot and I had to use the knife to pull out the bullets. I love
It was
that thing.
amazing. It was
The
amazing.
camouflage. Oh my god!
Yeah.
And what you said, like the creativity behind killing the end by like advancing the clock on your
Yeah.
PlayStation 2 is like who I love that exists so much.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's like if someone's thinking this exists in this desk, like this game exists inside this device in this world, and I'm playing it. Like it's someone not only thinking on like what's happening inside the game.
absolutely. And just to finish this off, because I'm a big Metal Gear nerd, but the and I think I have never had the chance to talk about this with anyone, so you're the victim now. But in the fifth one, the idea of using language as a weapon for ethnic cleansing,
It's insane.
that blew my mind. It's like, wow, fuck. And the fact that the vibrations of each language is like, it makes sense. Like the science of it, it's nonsense, but it kind of makes sense. It's so fucking.
There is something. That's why I think that some video games can be like life changing. There's a quote in that game that even like living in Barcelona and in Catalonia and all that, Spain, like it like kind of clicked for me when I played the game. It's like we inhabit a
The language we
language,
speak.
no,
Oh
the language
fuck.
we speak, not a nation. And it's like
Yes.
that's it. Like that's definitely it. Like that's and a lot of people like when they hear me speak Spanish, they're like, "Oh, you haven't lost your accents." It's like, well, I haven't because it's kind of like all we have left as an immigrant. It's kind of like the only way to inhabit the land that we left, and that's insane. And especially coming from Kojima because he's not an immigrant. He's a Japanese person. And
Yeah.
I think he understands that, and he goes to the core. Like there are like incredibly deep topics there that otherwise wouldn't have been accessible for me.
Cristian, you are speaking to my soul because not only am I also a Venezuelan immigrant in Barcelona, I played that game at that point in its history, and that quote got like instilled in my mind. And
Yeah.
when people ask about my accent, I say the same thing. It's like
Yeah.
it's the last thing I have. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to say Spanish from Spain things. I want to keep my expressions.
Yeah.
I mean, when I have to talk to a Spanish person, I will use them just to get the point across. But it's like you're speaking to my soul, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. So to top this episode off, which has been amazing, I mean I think the answer is pretty clear. But are you still playing Mass Effect?
I'm gonna be playing Mass Effect for the foreseeable future, but I am finishing the first one. I think I
Okay.
only have like two main stories left.
Okay.
I forgot how empty some of the side quests were because like you do kind of like very repetitive things, and then you just get kind of like a pop up saying, "And this happened," and then the quest is over. So that's kind of boring. So I think I'm championing through the main story now.
Awesome. Okay, so as I said, I'm playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. It's pretty cool. I'm enjoying it a lot. The characters are very endearing, very well written. The story goes through, as I said before, I'm not a big anime fan. I think I kind of went over that a little bit before because the fact that you kind of unify all these goofy things with very dramatic, sad things is not always, like, it doesn't always gel with me. But in this case, you have this story about this guy who's a Yakuza, a Yakuza, like an agent, like a soldier, let's say, for the Yakuza. And he goes to prison for a crime he did not commit, but he does it willingly because his boss, so to speak, tells him to do that. And he spends 18 years in jail. He comes out, he's 42 years old. He doesn't know the world he's going into. And things happen. I mean, I'm not going to spoil what happens because that's like the beginning of the game. And it's really interesting. I mean, I think this is going to sound pretty silly because it's a game, but I think that I'm kind of like seeing a new culture. And I mean, I have seen Japanese movies, I have seen animes before, but the whole Yakuza thing, the rules that they have, it's something that I never really knew before. And I'm hoping that this is truthful and it's not just made up for the game and stuff like that. But
And it's not offensive if you actually think it's true.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, I hope that's not the case. But the fact is that I'm really enjoying the game. The combat is turn-based, which I know that it's something that when I hear it, I get red flags because I immediately think boring. Even though, I mean, I love Final Fantasy VII, stuff like that. But it's pretty cool because you still feel that it's real time, that they're moving, they're doing things. You can still like wait until an enemy aligns with another enemy so that you can damage them both. Like, it's pretty dynamic, so it doesn't really feel as slog at all. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say on that one. And then this game, The Evil Within 2, really surprised me because I played the first one. For those who don't know, this is made by Tango Gameworks. The parent company of that is Bethesda, which has another parent company now, like the grandfather company is Microsoft now. And the first one, I enjoyed it because I'm a big fan of survival horror games. Shinji Mikami, I mean, I admire him a lot. He's the creator of Resident Evil. But I felt that the first one kind of landed a little bit short with me. Like, the story I wasn't really that in love with. The gameplay is solid because it's basically Inception-styled Resident Evil, right? It's like, that's kind of the gameplay. Did you play it?
I've heard. I was working with someone that really liked both games, and he was a game artist, and I remember like he he bought like a bunch of like art books and whatnot about the game. I didn't give it a try to the first one. I wanted to give a try to the second one. I was checking whether there was miraculously a PS5 patch. So the reason, but it's a game that I actually wanted to play. I wanted to ask. I saw that you mentioned that you were playing it, and wanted to like ask you like whether you would recommend it, and more importantly, can I pick it up starting with the second one?
You know what? I think you can, because I played the first one on 2015, maybe. So I didn't remember anything. It's as though I didn't play it. So
Of course.
and I wasn't lost here. Sometimes they mention characters and stuff like that, but it's not really that impactful to what's
Okay.
going on in the second one. So I would say the second one is the best one. So go for it, and you don't really have to worry about the
I'll probably give it a try. I have a hefty backlog of games, but most of them haven't come out yet. I managed to clear most of my backlog during confinement, so I'll be fine.
That's awesome, man. But the thing that really like blew me away about this game is that since you're gonna play it, I'm not gonna really go into details and stuff. But I mentioned Inception before, and the reason why I make that comparison is that they have this machine that they go into, where they go into basically another person's mind,
Okay.
and it's represented by like a city in this case,
Okay.
right? So everybody who's connected to the machine, I mean, their bodies are out in the real world, but their minds are interacting with each other as though it were a video game. I mean, it's basically Inception in that same way. And like if you die in that world, you die in real life, the same thing. But the thing that impacted me was the fact that they use the character's emotional state. How can I frame this without spoiling anything? So the traumas that your character has and other characters have manifest themselves in
the
this
world.
world in a way that I thought was really good, because basically it kind of is an allegory of your demons literally
Okay.
coming after you. And I found that so masterful. And if you do play it, I would love to talk about it with you over
I'll
here.
probably
because
check it out. I'll see if I put it in the backlog if you really recommend it. So yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you found it discounted or whatever, I know that on Xbox it has the FPS boost, which brings the thing up to 60 FPS. But I'm not sure. I don't think it has a PS5 thing.
Yeah,
but maybe I'm
probably
wrong.
not. Probably not.
Yeah,
I don't think
probably
so. I think I recently checked it out actually, because I did remember like this game seems to be good, because like people have recommended that, and I want to play kind of like a survival and not a Resident Evil game. So
No, yeah. I mean, I'm such a big fan of those games. Like, I think that what Capcom has done with Resident Evil in the past 3 to 4 years has been masterful. Like, I've
sure.
loved the remakes. The 7 was amazing. 8 was really, really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe this game doesn't really reach those heights to me. But the story is really, really good. The gameplay is solid. And yeah, like, it just caught me, you know? Like,
But yeah,
you know when,
I think
Describe.
that's kind of like what I'm looking for, in the sense like it doesn't have to be a AAA game. It can be just like a really solid survival game that's a bit different. Like it feels different. So
it feels totally different, because all the survival horror stories are always like big pharma company goes wrong or whatever, you know, like in this case it's more cerebral, more psychological,
kind of like a
which I think is
psychological
pretty cool.
thriller.
Yeah, more like
Cool.
that. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Looking forward to it.
Well, my friend, we have reached the end of this episode. I think that it has been another worthy episode of this podcast. The second one we've done in English so far. The third one we've done in English. The second one with yourself. Is there anything you want to plug before we go? Your podcast, your newsletter?
As usual, feel free to browse to hammerspacepodcast.com. Check out what's in there. And other than that, thank you for inviting me, Juan. I had a really good time. It's always cool discussing about Metal Gear 5 with the other Metal Gear fan that exists.
Yeah, it's not just me.
Exactly. There's dozens of us.
There's dozens. But yeah, I mean, follow Cristian at Chris7Ian in Twitter. Follow his podcast, subscribe to his YouTube channel, subscribe to his newsletter, do all of that. And if you like this podcast, of course, please subscribe to it as well. Like it, share it with your friends, with your grandma, with your girlfriend, with your boyfriend. Everybody likes this podcast. Why wouldn't they, right? Comment what you think about this topic. As we said, we're going to try to make it more topical, less about in the news and more about one specific thing. And it's funny, I thought that this topic was going to be like too short of an episode, and we've been recording for an hour and a half. So I was wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong because it's awesome. So yes, please like, subscribe, share it, and we will see you in the next episode of New Game Plus Cast, everybody.